You guys, we need to talk about Chad Franke. Last week, he opened up like never before on the Squeeze podcast with Taylor Lautner and his wife, also named Taylor. And what he had to say about growing up online, especially under the care of his mother, Ruby Franke, is heartbreaking. Taylor Lautner revealed that he originally DM'd Chad, and at first, Chad didn't even believe it was really him. But eventually, he agreed to come on the podcast. And what followed was one of the most honest conversations we've heard from Chad to date. For those who don't know, or maybe just need a refresher, Chad is one of the older children from the infamous YouTube family behind 8 Passengers, a channel run by his mom, Ruby Franke. The channel was known for its extreme parenting style, and over time, people became seriously concerned about how the children were being treated. Then, everything took a horrifying turn. Ruby Franke was arrested and later sentenced in what has been called one of the most disturbing cases involving a YouTube family. She was working closely with Jodi Hildebrandt, a woman who was arrested alongside her. Together, they ran a so-called parenting advice group called Connections. Since the arrests, we've seen documentaries, news reports, and interviews featuring Ruby's husband Kevin and Chad's older sister Sherry, who's been incredibly vocal about protecting children of influencers. But this podcast, it was different. It was raw. It was Chad finally speaking for himself. He talked about the moment that triggered Ruby's public downfall. It was when a video was posted of Chad calmly confessing on camera that he hadn't been allowed to sleep in a bed for 7 months. Instead, he was sleeping on a beanbag chair. That video spread like wildfire, and Ruby was furious. "You guys know the video," Chad said. "Me sitting on the ground, and I finally said I hadn't been sleeping on a bed." That same day, everything exploded. She started getting canceled immediately. There was
You guys know the video with, me sitting on the ground with her, and I finally revealed that I wasn't sleeping on a bed for a certain amount of months. And then when that video was posted, no joke, like that day was when the cancellation started. Like immediate backlash on her, huge unfollowing. I don't know much about news outlets, but basically TikTok was the big push to kind of cancel her.
Yeah.
And that's when I started seeing her panic a little bit. And I remember sitting in the living room just doing my homework, and I don't think I've ever shared this before. After that video came out and the controversy started hitting, she ran into the living room and she was like, "You bitch, you did that on purpose. You knew what you did. You knew what you were saying." And she was just yelling, and I haven't seen this out of her in a long time, like a very, very long time. And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know people are upset with you." And then my dad actually came down and was like, "Ruby, you need to leave. Like, you need to get away from him. He obviously didn't plan this. He didn't plan for you to get canceled." And
how old were you at that point?
I was 15.
huge backlash. TikTok played a big role. Chad remembers sitting in the living room doing homework when Ruby stormed in, yelling that he had done it on purpose. She said, "You knew what you were doing. You knew what you were saying." I hadn't seen that side of her in a really long time. She was yelling and
During that time, I was working with Jodi very tightly, very closely. She was my therapist, and I had like a love for her in a sense where I trusted everything she told me to do.
For sure.
And same with my mom.
Yeah.
And so when I saw everything go down, I didn't really think much of it. In fact, I actually knew how much money they were making, and I was nervous about the money. And to know that the views were going to go down and that the sponsorships were going to go down, that was kind of my main focus. Was, oh no, we're gonna lose money as
Did
a
you
family.
feel a little
And
guilty for affecting that?
I wouldn't say guilty, because I knew that wasn't my purpose or my motive in saying the beanbag thing. I knew I wasn't trying to make them lose money, but yeah, I was nervous for my parents to lose all their income. That was my big concern.
furious. And I just kept saying, "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do this to hurt you." It wasn't until Chad's dad stepped in that things calmed down. He told her, "Ruby, you need to walk away. He didn't do this to sabotage you." And at the time, I was only 15. Taylor asked Chad if he felt validated by the public outrage or if he felt defensive because, after all, they were still his parents. Chad admitted something shocking. At the time, he was
I didn't see them before. So when the trailer was released, I was like, oh wow, that brings back a lot of memories.
Oh, wow.
So, but before they made everything, they showed it to me, and I pre-watched the documentary before it was released. But with the trailer, that kind of was like, oh whoa, those are some crazy memories to look back on. And I do remember those feelings, because in my mind, the whole thing, when they wanted me to say something and I didn't even feel like it, my mindset was like, okay, this is a job. This is how I play football in the summer. This is how we get to go on vacations. I can tell she's upset with me, so I'm just going to say it because this is how we make money.
more worried about money. I was working really closely with Jodi. She was my therapist and I trusted her. And same with my mom. So when all the backlash started, I didn't really think about whether it was right or wrong. I just kept thinking, we're going to lose money. I knew how much they made. I was scared that our income, our sponsorships, it was all going to disappear. He said he didn't feel guilty about what he shared because it wasn't his intention to hurt anyone. But the fear of financial collapse was very real for him. The conversation turned to the recent documentary about the family, which included never before seen footage, clips of Ruby telling the kids to smile smile for the camera, to act happy because they were only on vacation because of YouTube. Chad hadn't seen those clips before. When the trailer dropped, I thought, wow, that brings back so many memories. I remember those moments. I remember her telling us, this is how we afford football. This is how we go on trips, so you better do your part. It felt like a job. I'd say what she wanted because that's how we survived. Later in the episode, Chad talked about speaking to Ruby after her arrest. She hadn't changed. She was still in that same mindset. I told her Jesus wouldn't do this. And I think that shook her because no one had ever really pushed back on her logic before. A few days later, she called me crying. She told me I was right. She couldn't stop sobbing. She said she realized what she had done was wrong. Then she brought up money. She told me she wanted to give back the money I earned from our YouTube channel because the week before her arrest, my savings account was drained. Everything I earned from 8 passengers, gone, zero. And to this day, I still haven't gotten it back. Chad said she promised she'd talk to her lawyer and make things right. But that was the last time they spoke. Since then, she's tried to reach out, sending letters to the house. Eventually, the prison stopped allowing it. She wrote me 4 or 5 letters over the year. And even though she said she was sorry and admitted guilt, the letters were very spiritual. And honestly, that broke the trust even more. She used to talk about God so much when she was hurting us that now I don't even want to hear about God from her. It just feels manipulative. When asked about forgiveness, Chad took a deep breath. Everything that happened, it's over now. Everyone's safe. The story feels like a movie that finally ended. I do forgive her in some way. I want her to live a better life. I want her to be someone people can trust again. But I can't forget what happened. I can't rebuild that relationship. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I still love her, but I need distance. At the end of the conversation, Chad was asked when he truly realized that what Ruby was doing was wrong. It wasn't a light bulb moment. It was gradual. At first, even for a few weeks after her arrest, I was on her side. I believed everything she told me. Even when she said she was saving us from demons, I believed her. That's how deep I was in it. And he credits social media, even with all its flaws, for helping him start to see the truth. Some of those videos, they opened my eyes. Slowly but surely, I started to see reality again.